Okay, we'll call the Public Works and Planning Committee to order. And I'm gonna ask Mr. Sparks if he'd lead us in prayer.
Okay. Bow with wisdom. Dear Father in heaven, come before you, Lord, with humble hearts, just asking for wisdom and guidance upon this body here tonight, Lord. Be with those that are suffering with sickness and disease. Be with those shut-ins. Be with our school system. Be with our school director. Be with our mayor. Be with our sheriff and other leaders, Lord. We just thank you for all the many blessings you've given us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, need to approve minutes for the last meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, first one up will be building coach.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, tonight's Building Code Department report. Does everybody have a copy of it?
I don't know, Chairman gave me tons of paper.
Building Code report for January was 114 building permits issued. Fees taken in, the building permit fees was $28,164. Plumbing fees was $4,095. Gas permit fees was $480 for a total of $32,739. On the back of the report shows our activity in the nature of the permits issued. Single-family dwellings issued 29 compared to last January at 21. To remind you, last month's December 09 was 30, so we're real close to last month's totals and a little bit over last year's on single-family dwelling. Our next report is our monthly inspection report for zoning enforcement. We performed 82 inspections for property maintenance. BZA and conditional use permit inspections was 31. Signs taken up or inspected was 34 for a total of 65 inspections in that category. And in January we had 8 new cases and 35 closed cases. Our development tax report collection was $381,000 by the Building Codes Department, $73,500 by the Planning Department, for a total $454,500. Our cumulative total, $984,750. Breakdown of where those fees were, the development was occurring. You see Murfreesboro was leading with that $390,750 collection. Cumulative total for the month was $454,500.
Was that an apartment complex or something, David?
It was apartment complex on Salem, Highway 99. Versus. That's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody got any question on the report?
Report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr.
I've got some questions, but you might want to wait and bring it up under other business, whatever you want to do, Mr. Chairman.
Let's just wait till planning gets through and we'll.
Okay.
David, what about you waiting here?
Mr. Chairman, committee members, you have before you our monthly subdivision lot inventory. From a plat standpoint, nothing really new to report. On the last page, you'll notice that there was one plat extension that was granted for the use of Vital Creek. That's a subdivision that received final approval back in 2008. However, they've not really begun any development out that way. They asked for an extension and were granted extension 1 year from this year, one of 10, so they'll be good for another year. It's 99 lots. Other than that, this represents what you see here. I believe it was 25 lots, 25 that were permitted. You'll notice on the third page, the total number of recorded lots is 3,298. The permits available, 1,727. The total lots available would be 1,571. That's down from last year at this time, about not quite 40 lots. So we are starting to see a little bit of activity. Most of the activity we have seen from a plat standpoint has been the reapprovals coming through in December. You'll notice in your main packet on the last page there's our report from the Planning Commission. In December, we had granted Magnolia Valley, Richmond's Retreat, and Maddington Cove were all reapproved. And then that one in January that I just told you about, the views at Lytle Creek. So that's, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those. We have no rezoning cases, conditional use cases this time coming before you this month. What we do have, however, is moving along with our comprehensive plan. You'll have in your packets a copy of the value statement, the vision statement, as well as the overall, if you will, overall goals and objectives of the plan. There's been a lot of public comment into this. Of course, you know, we've had a number of meetings with the community, as well as steering committee meetings, surveys, a blog spot that you can get to on off our website. And all that input kind of went into formation of these goals and objectives. I'm not planning on going into a whole lot of detail with these tonight. Really, this is for your information. We are going to be having a more formal presentation at the county commission. Our consultant's going to be coming down to give a more formal presentation at the commission meeting to go into more detail with these items. Of course, I'll be happy to discuss any of them if you have questions. Really, all we're asking for at this point is is your endorsement that we did bring these to the Planning Commission. There were several questions and comments about the process, as well as the goals and objectives that were listed. And they did vote unanimously to endorse the vision statement, the goals and objectives. This isn't the adoption of the plan or anything like that by any means. We're moving into the next phase of the project now. We actually have a steering committee meeting this coming Thursday at 6 o'clock at CUD. We'll be talking about the baseline growth scenario if things stay the same as they are today, what we could expect in the next 15 to 20 years, as well as starting to lay out the alternative growth scenarios. So that's kind of where we are in the process at this point. But we are going to be bringing these goals and objectives to you, as well as the vision statement, just really for your endorsement, just for you to take a look at them if you have questions, and really just to kind of give your blessing that you like the direction that the plan is going in this at this point. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions about that. One other thing I just want to bring to your attention is one of the items that I passed out at the meeting when I first got here today, just a memo of our 2009 work schedule report. This just kind of goes over the items we accomplished in the calendar year 2009, as well as those items that we have identified for completion in 2010. Again, I won't go into a whole lot of detail with this. This went to the Planning Commission at their last meeting, January 25th. They did vote to endorse the work schedule, if you will, that we had. Of course, this is meant to be more of a living, breathing document, if you will. Things come up that are anticipated, and of course, they can be added into the plan. But this really is for your information. On the very last page, we put a sheet in there. This kind of gives you an overview of the number of plats, lots, and the activities of the various boards from the past calendar year 2009. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody got any questions they want to ask on this particular item here?
This is the, I was at the planning commission, when Pat talked about this thing, and it's the same thing that they endorsed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. This really is more for your information. Than
Right,
just
that's
to
what
kind of
it is.
get-
That was- So, and it's gonna be a bigger explanation of that coming up on Thursday, and then they're coming to, the commission to give us
Well, not of the work schedule, of the goals and objectives.
goals of the objectives.
Yes, yeah, correct.
Okay.
That next Thursday's meeting,
Next Thursday, okay.
yes, our consultant is planning on being in attendance to discuss that, correct.
Doug, how does someone, you mentioned a blog, is there a way that people can give you feedback?
Yes, if you go on the county's website and you go to the planning department's page, there's actually a link there to the comprehensive plan page, and from there you can access the survey and the blog. The blog is actually not maintained by us, it's maintained by the consultant, but we have a link to it from our website.
Motion to approve.
Any other question? All in favor?
Aye.
Before you leave, Doug, now you, under any other business, Raleigh on, bring this up this time.
Yeah, I have two things, and maybe Mayor
What about
Burgess
you, stepping back up here, Mr. John?
and Commissioner Sandlin,
We'll call on
to
Mr.
talk about
Sadler
that. If we need that, I just want to make sure that recognize that he's here. I got a couple of questions and just wanted some updates on. It's two-part. One, I know that we're into in court over the expansion of the rock quarry. That was, I guess it was expansion or the new thing, I don't know. But I have basically two questions. What is an update with that? And I know we don't want to get into any limited things as Dr. Mayor Burgess about, but just for the people, because my district is across the road out there, and of course the rock quarry is in Steve's district out there, and we get a lot of calls of what's going on with this. So under that bit of information, just trying to get something out for people. Where are we at with it in the court? And secondly, why are we in court specifically over this? So I don't know who needs to field that. I mean, maybe Mayor Burgess wants to do that, or Doug, or.
I think we'd be better off let the county mayor.
Oh, that's fine. I just.
Okay, well, we're in court. Your first question is regarding the request by the applicant, Rogers Group, to expand their operation onto some adjacent property. Is that your point first? Well,
Right, that's the point, because because it had come up is in a recap. I mean, it came to us at the county commission, and when it got into a discrepancy between what was recorded in Georgia Lynch's office and what was in the printed document, and I believe it all hinged around the section 1, that it says that there must be a 1,500-foot setback, and it says a residential 100, 40, 20, comma, 10, and 8. And in the original version, the official version that's down in Georgia Lynch's office, it says 100, 40, 20, 15, 10, and 8. So the question was, which one was right? Is that why we're there? I mean, that was.
I think that's a fair assessment of why we're in court.
Okay.
I think it's, respectfully, we're unable, since we are in court, to address the validity of the answer, or what answer we expect, or what. But I think it's fair to say that we went into court because it wasn't clear to any of us really exactly which one of these zoning resolutions was in control or properly adopted or approved, from which we should make the final decision. So rather than to make a final decision that may or may not be correct, we are asking the court to help us define through discovery what piece of, or which zoning ordinance we should rely on to make this decision. And it's, yes, exactly as you described, what is in question as to which piece of this, which types of our zoning this 1,500-foot requirement applies to. It's just, so we don't know the answer to that yet. It's in court, nothing has happened, and I'm not aware that we have a date certain set to hear the thing yet.
Okay, that was so. And the other point on that is, if the 15 R15 is in there, the 1,500-foot setback would preclude that application from moving forward, because, is that right? I mean, that's,
Well, we're not going to answer that question. I don't think we should answer that question yet, because we need to let the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners answer that question. And I shouldn't answer that question, and they shouldn't be placed in a position of trying to answer that question. They're not equipped to answer that question.
I mean, that, well, the way it was explained that night was, if you take 1,500-foot setback from all of the borders, then there's very little land left.
We just can't go into the intricate details of what, if this happens, will that happen. We can't do that under the terms of where we are in this litigation, so it's just not appropriate.
Okay. Well, and part two of my question on this is that this is in paragraph 1, and we stopped that night and did not go through all of the regulations that went in there to see if it met all the other criteria. So my question is, since this is being costly and time consuming, would it be, in my opinion, there are parts in here that would make their request not meet the standards, if even you didn't even discuss whether it was R15 and a 1,500-foot setback. So my question is, would it be prudent on our part, since we saving taxpayers' money, to at least address those things, these other issues, in some form? So if we go through this court case, and whichever way it comes back up, we're back up there. So to address all these things and some of the issues, for example, in section 4 of this, that's not part of the court case.
Let me respectfully stop you here just a moment. Everything you're saying is potentially on point, correct, and accurate, but everything you say as a member of the Board of Commissioners may or may not be used as fact, as information that will put us in substantial jeopardy as we get into this course of things. In other words, whatever you allow as the truth, you're speaking or representing the county. So I would hope that some of this may be very, very accurate, but it's your opinion. So I would just caution to use discretion and not do anything that would jeopardize our position, our standing, as we go through this process. And it's, as you well know, litigation is no fun, but every tool in the world will be used, including everything I say and you say. So you can continue on with that being said.
Okay. I was just asking the question, would it be prudent on our part to look at all of these other sections rather than spending all the money on legal fees on this one point? Because the only thing that we're in court over, as you've explained, is this one point.
Okay. Now, answering
That's my question.
Your question in a general way
Right.
is yes. And I would suggest that you and I schedule an appointment with our county attorney, and you bring us some of those very specific ideas that you have, and let's review those, and let's determine, how that fits into where we are. And I think that would be appropriate. And these people certainly can be with us during that discussion. But I don't think we ought to do it with in an open meeting. I think you individually should come forth, and we'll schedule a meeting with our county attorney, and we'll discuss these issues, and we'll see how we should pursue that.
Okay, well, that's fine. Well, Commissioner Sandlin would certainly, this is actually in his, but my district.
Well, any one of you.
That, so,
but we only, again, respectfully, only one of you at a time. If we need 2 of you, we'll do 2 meetings. We cannot meet together for the purpose of deliberating because of the open meetings requirement, but we'd be happy to share and listen to your suggestions and take them constructively.
Well, I guess I'm confused on the issue. If we're not talking about anything that we're in court on, why the problem about having an open meeting and bring it out? But if that's what you're suggesting, I don't have a problem
When
with
you're
that.
in court, you know full well that everything, whether it's related or unrelated, will be involved and linked, and we'll have to address that. So I'm just trying to, I'm trying to err on the side of caution, and we'll be happy to spend as much time as you want to on this, and very specifically with you or any other commissioner that wants to discuss this, and we'll make that arrangement in whenever you're available.
Okay. If we have this discussion, it's still got to come for the county commission.
Not necessarily. We could so advise the planning commission or whatever to go ahead and take affirmative action. We thought it was prudent and
Okay.
effective and doesn't expose us to a further litigation or weakening of our case.
Okay.
It's a judgment that all of us together will have to make some reasonable determination on.
Okay, I was just under the impression that county commission had to hear this and voted up or down on, since they have filed this.
Well,
and
you're
it's already
talking
gone
about some other issues now that are independent of the piece of litigation, so,
through. I'm not talking about the litigation.
Right.
It's separate.
well, I think it's almost impossible to separate this kind of discussion in this same area about this same applicant without it interfering or impacting the litigation.
Okay.
One technical point I'd kind of like to ask about, though, and that is, as things now stand, we're waiting on a court judgment with regard to the one issue there. Suppose, just suppose, there were several other issues after reviewing it under the comprehensive regulation. Would it be likely or possible, as far as you know, to amend so we get one decision for the whole bundle instead of having to have several piecemeal lawsuits?
Well, you're an
That's a
attorney.
matter of judicial economy, and most judges like that.
You are fully aware that either side of the litigation has any opportunity to go back in and amend their complaint or defend their complaint multiple times. So if that were the right thing to do, yes, we should pursue that action.
But that's just a hypothetical.
That's
It does
And it
not,
may very well be.
I do not address any particulars
Right,
here, but just
absolutely.
the overall framework to put to rest anybody's worries about, a whole string of lawsuits.
Yes, sir. Anything we can do to simplify that and speed that process up and make it simpler needs to be done.
Then, okay, I guess that's all about that part of it and this, and then the other part is on the existing rock quarry. I think about 45 or 50 or 60 days ago, whatever the time frame was, there was a complaint, and it was all in the paper and all of this. Can we get where are we with that? Have y'all been out and inspected the site yet? Has anybody been out there for that?
I don't know if we've been out there. I know that David has had a meeting with the representative, and he has reviewed aerial views, et cetera, of what is there in comparative to what was there before.
I mean, have you been out there yet?
I have been on the site, and I have met with one of their representatives about the conditions of the rock quarry, yes.
Okay, so y'all are, I know it's a complicated issue to
We
get
are-
back with the thing, so.
I will say that we're just as anxious as anyone else to come to a clear and concise understanding of what we should do. And it is complex, just as you said. And it's clear that we're not dealing with a routine complaint. I mean, it's not a complaint about how many dogs are on a piece of property. This complaint involves the rock quarry, and the rock quarry is not operating under the same process of approval that a standard current application would operate under. The permission that it was granted by the court
Correct.
all the way back in 1985. And it's an extraordinary, difficult, complex case, and believe me, we've spent more hours than we want to spend on this. We've had multiple meetings with the county attorney, with Mr. DeMussy and Mr. Jones, and both Mr. McCurry and Mr. Cope. We are continuing as early as late as last week. We've had another extended discussion about this, and I wanted everyone to know that we're taking this seriously. We're doing everything we can to be sure that we can find, hopefully, clear and concise information that will give us a basis from which to make a decision that will put us in the best position to be sure the position is reasonably correct. And really beyond that, I don't know what else to say except we are not, I've had another discussion even today that they haven't with me, but so this is not something we're just putting aside and not working diligently to try to accomplish. So we have researched all the way back to 1982 every document, every file that's in the Planning Commission's office, and some of that is not complete, and not there's not a good a way to track all of this precisely through all that documentation. We're also reviewing all the documents of the court, more than just the opinion itself, which is probably almost 2 feet of documents. So believe me, I want everyone to know that we're doing everything humanly possible to do our duty, do our homework, and do it thoroughly before we make any statements or any rash decisions that would complicate even further the litigation. We don't want to regress to 1985 and start that process over again.
Well, in a broad sense, without the specifics, what will be the process?
Well,
Y'all will review it.
we'll
and-
review it, and if it were clear enough that we could give assurance to our codes director that it's clear direction, here's what you should do, A, B, C, D, we would tell him to go ahead and get on with it. And then if it's not clear, we're going to have to refer some of this back, maybe even to the Planning Commission or otherwise, for some further clarification. But now, I don't know how we precisely, if we're not clear on what the court told based on the clear information that it had at that time, maybe that we have to report to the Planning Commission, report to this body here, that we don't know how we should proceed, and we'll have to go into some sort of executive session, either at this committee level or at the commission level, to explain all this to you, and you guys can maybe at that point tell us how you think we should proceed.
Okay. I just wanted to kind of get some people to know, and this time frame is undetermined at this time. It's
Right.
30, 60 days, or?
Well, we've been to this already almost 60 days.
Right, okay.
And it's not that this particular operation is, it's been in operation since before 1985. So I don't think we're placing the lives of people in jeopardy necessarily. So I think the prudent thing to do is, if it takes us another week or another month or 2 more months, we ought to use that time to try to prevent us taking action that is off base, inappropriate, and puts us in severe jeopardy again about an inappropriate decision.
Okay. Thanks I just want people to kind of understand what it is and where we are, because I get a lot of phone calls from this,
I'm sure you do.
and rather than trying to tell them, because I don't know, so.
So, and any of you that one-on-one want to come to the office and get more information, we're happy to share that with you, or the county attorney is happy to share that with you in a broad kind of sense, but it's highly complex, to say the least, and some of you may have been around, but I invite you to review some of this complexity of the documented history and trail of some of this.
Yeah, and the only other thing, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if we need to suspend the rules, but I just would like to ask, since like to extend the courtesy to any other commissioner when they come, see if he has any,
You got anything to add?
I mean, to see.
What you asking, anything you done got?
I basically, get calls too, and with it being in my district, I would ask the building codes director or the mayor. I'd say probably from the building codes director. I've already talked to David, and I've talked to the mayor about, the ongoing lawsuit and the written complaint that's come in over the building codes department. And so, if David would write a letter to the folks that wrote the complaint, outlining what's going on or what's happening or the procedure that's happening, I think that would help a lot, because really those are the folks that are in close proximity of this rock quarry. And so they're all really stirred up about the lawsuit and what's happening, what's not happening, or what's going to happen, or what's, all of the above. So they're concerned, and they're residents of around that rock quarry and beside it, and the ongoing situations that are going there, the dust, the blast, and everything else. They just want to keep informed with what's going on. And like I said, when I get the calls, we're still in litigation. It's a hurry up and wait kind of thing. So we don't have anything else to tell you, and I know that gets your constituents sometimes impatient on not knowing. And we don't know anything yet, and that's all we can say. So, but I think if a letter was written to the folks who wrote the complaint to let them know, I think that would
that would be fine. Let them know what's going on.
I don't, the only thing I'd say is the mayor, I don't know whether we could write them a letter or not when you're still in,
We can write a letter, but it won't get into specifics, just like we're not able to get into specifics tonight. We can write a general letter saying we're using all of our efforts and resources to properly and thoroughly review this matter, and we'll continue to keep you informed as we gather information. That's about all we can say, and we'd be happy to say that.
Well, then y'all write that letter then.
We can write that letter, and I'll be sure that we review it, and our legal staff reviews it as well before it is sent.
And I've had communication with Mr. Lane in the process of where we are at this time.
So we've verbally communicated that already,
Verbally communicated.
but that's all David can say is more or less what I have sort of outlined there.
What about you, Mayor, getting with David and y'all,
We'll,
give him something in writing, and then he as far as we can go right now till
we will
till
do that.
we find out more. You and this daily, working with
yes,
the
sir.
county attorney, and I think commissioners need to respect that. And
As far as the letter goes, just adjacent property owners, is that?
We're only going to send a letter to the person that made the complaint.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all we're going with here.
Mr. Mayor, did I understand you to say we had a court ruling or court order that pretty well laid out the operation of the quarry?
It's not that detailed at all, Commissioner. It's a very broad-reaching statement, and I really don't want to get into that, but it's not clear what permission was granted. But I mean, I'd be happy
It's in a
to.
court order, is that correct?
The court rendered an opinion in 1985, and we have that court opinion. I'd be happy to let you read that sentence or two that's germane here, along with several other pages. And that's one of the difficulties we're wrestling with, is exactly when they wrote that opinion, how do you interpret that to exactly what permission has been granted for their operation there?
Well, with all of the questions that have been asked by Commissioner Williams, and that question that I asked about the court order, these issues could be brought up in an executive session, and that could be done at our next commission meeting. I think that needs to be done. Based on these questions, I think it needs to be done, that we go into executive session at our next meeting, so everyone can hear these questions presented to our county attorney and hear how he explains these or how he answers these questions. So it's a lot different when you get it straight in a group. Everybody hears the same thing, or everybody's listening to the same thing. They may not hear the same thing, but everyone's listening to the same person give an opinion, or well, it would be his opinion, his legal opinion, because it definitely wouldn't be a ruling. But we could possibly go on from there to maybe shorten the time we have it in court.
Certainly that can be arranged. And
And
not
that way
not
we're
that
not
you
in-
should expect that our county attorney will have a definitive opinion by that time. He can tell you what all the what-if scenarios might be
Right.
if one were to interpret this way or this way. I don't think that we're to the point that he can say this is an absolute way
Right.
that anyone would interpret what this document or what this piece of information says. Now, it might still be useful if, as Mr. Williams suggested, if he's got some specific things that maybe even the county attorney hasn't considered. We need to know what those are if you want to, before you bring them up in an executive session, because he won't have not had time to review or think about those things. So if there's anything there that's needs to be fleshed out before the fact, then we need to get that information to them so they could respond. I think they'll share. Let's see, commission meetings a week from Thursday, so unless we have a revelation, we're not going to have hard answers for you by then. We can tell you the difficulties that are being faced.
That's correct. But I feel like that would help the position or help the situation that the commissioners are in at this time.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
But if you go that route, my only question, if a county attorney ain't even at the point that he can even answer them and they're still researching this, I can't see your point there.
Well, I want to know his opinion at this point. It may be enough for
According to the mayor there, he ain't got all of his opinions yet. They still studying this, ain't got all the facts.
Well, he can present the answer as it is written. I mean, it's in writing somewhere.
We can give that to you, Commissioner, but it won't satisfy all the questions that arise from that. By any
He
stretch
can
of
give
it.
that and expound on it. That's what I'm saying.
Now again, I'm just stating my part like the rest of the commissioners. That when we got a county attorney and them studying this and still not even ready themselves to say what direction we're going in, I just can't see why you need 21 commissioners there. It's going to have all other kind of opinions myself. That's just me.
Well, we won't be there to give our opinions.
Well, he ain't going.
Executive
He
session.
can't give you everything. He just got through told you about 4 or 5 times over and over. That they still studying it, still looking up stuff. So
Well, I made my motion. They're supposed to be accepted when they're made.
Well, I second the motion.
It's time for discussion on the motion.
yeah, I'm ready for discussion on the motion.
I don't have no problem with an executive session, but Commissioner Williams just brought up some things that he found, or whatever he wants to present. To me, it would be feasible that Commissioner Williams have that one-on-one with the legal department and let the attorney have that information. Then once that attorney get the information, then if we go into executive session, we probably could get some answers with the attorney having that information to discuss before next week. It'd be fine to go into executive session, but look like Commissioner Williams brought it up tonight, and he presented all this information. And I myself just feel like that the legal department should get this information before next week.
That's what I was trying to say there. That's what
He need to set up his one-on-one before next week.
I mean, pick a day and a time.
Well, you're the one that
My
brought it up.
cows can eat anytime. I'll work around them.
Well, you brought it up. You picked the date
You-
and time.
Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. I mean, you know.
you correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayor, but I think that's what you said
offered
about
that.
2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
The same thing that you'd like for Mr. Williams to get with the county attorney and these questions that he's got with you and him.
Well, I will, if that's,
I think
that's not part of the motion, but we'll make that happen.
My only point, and I don't have the problem doing that. In fact, I've already sat down and talked to Mayor Burgess and all, and I didn't have, I mean, all I've done is read the book. I mean, it's just right in here, and why these things, I mean, in one section it's one thing, and in one section in the other, and as an example of this, when this thing first came up, there were some issues that came up. I'm not talking about specifics.
Okay, please don't, please don't.
I told you I was going to talk about specifics.
I think we're getting plumb out of line.
But no, my only point is if we go in, I mean, I hadn't thought about the next session, but if, go into that and spend 10 or 15 minutes or whatever, and anybody that has any questions about this thing, then we can all do it while everybody's there, when we can't do it the other way. And I have no problem meeting, going over these things prior to that. I'm perfectly willing to do that. Just give me a day and a time. And I even work weekends.
And that was the intent of my motion, because the mayor had already said that this information needs to be presented, the questions need to be presented to our county attorney first, and I said yes, and then I made the motion. I didn't specifically say include that, but I'd already agreed to that. So we knew,
But he got through telling you he'd be better off this man here get with the county attorney himself, not the other 20 commissioners.
and give him this information.
That's what he's trying to tell you.
Well,
Well, I'm gonna ask another opinion of the gentleman right here. Then he's a lawyer. Does he think we need to go in and move this on like that to the full commission, or what's your opinion of it till they get through at the point? What the mayor said.
Well, there are two parts of this. One of them is that if we do the executive session, all the commissioners who are present will know the same body of data. The other side of it is, though, if we can't do anything with it yet because the county attorney hasn't had sufficient time to be prepared to answer our questions, then, we're just there. And so, there are both sides of that one still hanging out before us. Now, the fact that somebody said that it's in the book, yeah, it's in our resolution, our zoning resolution, and we're rewriting that right now, among other things, but I'm not going to get into what will apply and what won't. That's a matter for our council and the court, and the other side too. But I am concerned that wherever possible, we do things when we can clarify and put it all out and go to a resolution. And if we're not prepared to resolve, then what we need to do is figure out what steps are necessary to resolve it. And that's what we've been talking about here. That's where we are. But one thing I want to make clear, I'm not going to get into usurping the function of the county attorney. I'll react to it as one of you as a regular commissioner and not based on being an attorney. That's kind of bootleg.
Well,
And so,
Good answer.
yes, well, in other words, but I'm not unwilling to talk about
I
anything.
understand.
But I just want that made known.
Okay. Anybody got any other
Whatever
questions?
that's worth.
Anybody got anything else to say before we vote on this motion right here?
I mean, I'm not a member of this committee, but I would be more comfortable that we'll have a clear set of information where we could share better answers at the March meeting than the February meeting. I mean, I think we may have to have a meeting both months. I think the February meeting will be sort of preliminary. You'll see some of the dilemma we're facing, but we won't have any good answers for you. I think we'd be better served with better answers in March. That's just my comment.
Do we need to amend that?
Well, I mean, I can't amend that. I mean,
well, it may be that nothing else comes out of this other than us sort of having an understanding and everybody going home semi-happy. But executive session would cost the county taxpayers if we went into executive session special call. The way it's proposed, we're going to be there, we're getting the same money, it's not going to cost any more. It may cost 10, 15, it may cost 2 hours, but I doubt it, but it's not the intent, but it may cost us a little more time, but that's it. We're getting the same pay.
But there's not a fee.
You want to amend it for the move to next month?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Sparks,
Sir.
you was asking about the amendment. You want to make amendment? Anything to
Yeah,
it,
well,
move to the next month, or you want to leave it like it is?
Really, I'm not comfortable talking about pending litigation anyways, and I think let Mr. Cope do his job. I don't have any problem if it's an information session, and if it satisfies this commissioner, satisfies that commissioner, I don't have any problem with it. But,
We're not talking about pending litigation.
well, I mean, from what I see, that's what we're
No, sir.
involved
We're
in.
talking about the code's violation.
I think anything that we say here, I agree with the mayor.
can't
can-
Or we're talking about the code's complaint, I was saying.
Yeah,
violation.
this complaint, you really
I think
can't
we-
separate that complaint from the litigation. I mean, it has linkage.
Mr. McAdoo.
that would be why we'd be in executive
That's
session,
right.
I
That's
guess.
why we need to be
That's
in
why we'd be in
executive session.
executive session, but to answer your question, that's,
Well, anything that's said here can and will be used against us, so we gotta be real careful. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, a point of clarification, does this request for executive session address both the litigation and this complaint, or just the complaint? I think
Just
we
the
need.
complaint.
We need clarification, if that's what they want to go
I mean,
with.
I guess, I mean,
Okay, I think they need to make that part of the motion, that it's only to address the extension of this complaint and how we should respond to it.
Is that your motion?
that's it.
Is that your motion, or how's your motion then?
It's Mr. Johnson.
My
Mr.
motion was
Johnson.
to discuss or to bring up in executive session exactly what Commissioner Williams and myself had already asked tonight.
Regarding the complaint response, is that it?
Well, it was broader than just that one.
Broader than that.
It was the whole deal. But that's the purpose of executive session. You're taking it off this table. And
Well, you have to have you can only ask questions, and you ask any question you so choose.
right, that's what I'm asking.
And he can only respond to the question.
Right.
If he can, if he's able.
Mr. McAdoo.
Just like I stated before, I think Commissioner Williams should meet with our legal department before the executive session. I don't have no problem with his executive session. Have executive session every month you want to, as far as I'm concerned. But if he brought this up tonight, it would be nice to let the legal department have an idea or something, before our next commissioner meeting for this executive session.
Oh, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I was sharing this with Mayor Burgess the other day, but, so.
But it's,
Anybody got any other questions? I'm ready to get on with the
I'm going
vote.
to clarify his motion.
She wants to clarify your motion.
I have your motion to hold an executive session to answer questions on the rock quarry at the next commission.
Right. And that covers anything that
February.
we decide to ask for.
February.
What did she say?
February, at the next commission meeting.
At the next commission.
That's February.
And that's a week from Thursday, right?
that's right.
That gives it, but is that enough time for,
I'm available in the morning.
okay, but is that enough time? I mean, does it need to be put off till March?
Not on my schedule.
I don't believe the legal department's gonna have to do any more research because what we're asking for is just up to this point.
They just report what they got.
Yeah.
I mean, I can show this to Mayor Burgess tonight, and he can take it over there. I mean, that's not at his convenience.
We're
Stuff.
not-
I mean, that's not
We're not asking our
it's not
attorney-
rocket science for us right here.
Not asking our attorney to come to the executive session and tell us how we're gonna solve it next week.
I don't
I just
think he
wanna know-
would anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's not our point. Our point is to get it out to us so we all hear it at the same time. We hear the same thing.
Any other questions on it? If not, I'm gonna call for a vote on it. I'm gonna call a roll call on it.
Commissioner Daniel,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Yes, provided Commissioner. You know what I was gonna say, yes.
Commissioner Sparks,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan.
Yes. You get Johnson. You don't get me.
Mhm.
All right.
Well, I think the mayor ought to be allowed to check his calendar to see whether 8 o'clock. All right.
Okay, what was up
We're down to Mac.
Just call me and let me know where and when, just set it up.
there? Okay,
That's not a problem, I'm up.
we're ready for the landfill and convenience center.
Y'all doing all right this evening?
Oh, yeah.
I brought several things along with me, and there was some questions asked last month that we're gonna try to answer. First, I'll start with the convenience center reports? Is that okay? I'm not sure which order they're on the agenda. Convenience centers are still running a little bit slow with the weather that we've had. I'm sure some of you probably had some phone calls. We closed at noon this past Friday and then opened back up until this morning. Some of those centers still had some issues with some ice and snow. We sent a tractor and a truck out there to try to clear them as best as possible. The reason we had to close was safety reasons. People get hurt sliding around on the ice and snow, and what a lot of people don't understand with our trucks is as large as they are, as heavy as they are, if we get involved in an accident, we're not going to get hurt. But whoever we hit's probably going to get killed. You know, so it was a safety measure that we took that some people were probably not pleased with, but it was the right thing to do. But they're open and running pretty strong. We started this morning with very little to do, and then we've got quite a bit to do tomorrow. So general public did come out and start throwing their things away. Any question on the actual convenience center report? And then we'll answer your questions y'all had last month later. No questions on that report? All right, we'll move to the landfill report. Landfill's a little slow because of the weather, but we're staying busy out there. I will draw your attention to the very bottom number. The total revenue says $38,000. That looks real good, but I will caution you that there's one $17,000 check in that drove that number pretty high. We don't have a charge account to the landfill. If you come out, you pay as you go. So it's a large company out of Nashville that's wanting to use the landfill, so they paid in advance. They're estimating that much money that they're going to bring to us over the next 2 to 3 months. So that's the reason that number's high.
High numbers are good.
They are good.
Yeah.
Any question on that report? You want to go into answering the questions from last month, or you want to do the clear this?
Yeah, let's just go ahead and vote to clear these reports up first. Need a
Move
motion.
to approve the report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now go ahead with the.
Okay. There were several questions asked last month, and I've tried to address those. I've made some phone calls, and I've done quite a bit of homework. Middle Point Landfill, I talked to them just today to ask what the life expectancy of the landfill is. They're saying 16 to 17 years is what their life expectancy is. From Middle Point Landfill, the numbers that they had for last month between the city of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County combined was right at 8,000 tons of trash last month. Now, what you got to take in mind is Christmas trash came in last month. So that number is a little higher than normal. Our normal number between the city and the county is a little over 6,000 tons a month. So if you take that number, a little over 6,000 tons a month at their $58 a ton, that's $4,234,000 that the city and the county get in free disposal from Middle Point. Also, we get a host fee, and right now their intake is a little bit down. If you figure the host fee on the average right now, we're looking at getting a little less than $900,000 in host fee this year.
How much?
A little less than 900,000. 870,000 is my calculation. But so that also depends on how much out of county trash that they do receive, and that money is what helps fund my budget.
So in waive fees, it was 4.2, you said, or?
$4,234,000
Okay, 4.2.
is about what they give away in free trash disposal to the city and the county combined. Plus, they're a little less than $900,000 in post fee. So Middle Point represents $5,104,000 to the city and the county a year. Okay, now if you'll move on to this report, really doesn't have a title. The very top number is $1,006,000. That first page is where that was kind of my thinking pad as I was going through to try to answer Commissioner Williams' questions. My department convenience center budget last year spent $1,639,126.42 to run my department. That was not our budget. That's what we actually spent. So to come up with a question on what it costs to service front loader system, we don't divide it up by the trucks. We ran 11 trucks in that year. So if you take that number and divide it by 11 to find out what it costs to run a truck, it's $149,011. That's what it cost us on the average to run a truck. Now that's as close as we can get. So it's not a completely accurate number, but it's pretty close. To run our front loader system, we've got one truck that runs 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. The other truck runs about a 30-hour work week, and it runs when school's in session. So when you start doing these calculations to narrow it down, it cost us $237,219 to operate the trucks to run the front loader system. You divide that by the number of dumps, which the next 2 pages behind you shows you all those dumps. It comes up to $9.14 to dump a container. That's what my calculations came up with. So if you look at the next page, the page in blue is the Rutherford County school system. So based on that $9.14 a dump and the number of dumps that we do for the school system, that's $171,283 a year that it costs us to service the Rutherford County school system. Next page in black is your county government buildings that are not schools, which is $21,300. And then in red is the city of Murfreesboro service that we do for the city of Murfreesboro, which is $44,000. And down at the bottom, it shows you the total of how that breaks down. Now, the $44,000 for the city is 19% of that money. The school board, the county schools, is 72% of that money, and the other county buildings is 99% of that money. The front loader system itself, which those 2 trucks that we just spoke about, is 14% of my total budget.
Well, what do you call the thing on Haley Road?
That's a recycle. That's a totally separate budget.
Okay.
That's completely out of this equation.
Can't find it.
Right.
Okay.
That one's completely out of this.
Good enough.
But if you look at total budget at the $1.6 million spent, and then look at the front loader system through that, the city schools represents 3% of that, county schools is 10% of that, and the other is actually less than 1%. Okay, now the other question, you have a question?
Well, I have another question
Go
about
ahead.
school.
Okay.
The question was 2-part. Part meant to be, one was what is the actual cost, and one, what would it cost if this were hired?
If this was hired done, all this service that you see in black, red, and blue, if
I'm
it
just
was
speaking of the red. That's
just the red would be, you'd have to pull that out separately. Well, it would be about 19% of $450,000, whatever that figure would be, roughly 20% of that.
$90,000 if this were, if you hired somebody to do this service that we're doing for $44,000 would cost somebody $90,000, right?
Maybe more than that.
It could be more than that.
But that just kind of gives me, I'm just trying to get a kind of a idea, ballpark of what all these things were costing and what we're doing. Okay. Thank you so much for that.
Commissioner McAdoo's question on, I wonder if I'm going to forget you. I talked with the solid waste director for the city of Murfreesboro. The city of Murfreesboro solid waste budget is $5 million. His trash part of the budget, because they don't do more than trash, they do the limbs and the brush and the grinding and all that as well. His trash budget is about $3.3 million. So if you take that $3.3 million that they spend to service the city residents of Murfreesboro, divide that by the number of residents in Murfreesboro, which is around 100,000, that's $33 a person per year to do their trash. Now, we operate completely different. The way we operate is through convenience centers, and you bring your trash to us. Now, the situation you're going to get into is, can you put a convenience center in the city of Murfreesboro? Probably not. Would our convenience centers be able to handle the amount of trash, basically double our amount of trash? No. So we would have to actually add convenience centers. So not only, and then the city of Murfreesboro is roughly half the population of the county. So not only would our budget double, but you'd also have the extra cost of more equipment and probably more sites to better service it. Now, would we have to have the sites? No. We already have more sites than is required. Depending on how you do your calculation through the state, if you do it by population, we're supposed to have 8 convenience centers. We have 14. If you do it by square miles, we only have to have 3. So we've already got more service than is required. But to answer your question the best I can, and I can't give you a good definitive answer, is our budget would more than double.
If you had to do it.
Yes, sir. I mean, I can't really get you a positive answer, but that's as close as I get. Okay. Now, if you look at this page, which is, I presented this one to you once before in the past. This is convenience center activity for last year. And what we did was ran for a 12-month period a year ago. What we also did with this, because when we presented this to you before, we did not do the calculations on this page to know what it costs to run a truck. So instead of giving you the figure of $1.6 million to operate convenience centers, we backed out to $237,000 for the front loader system. So now you'll see the word dollars spent down here about the middle of the page is $1.4 million. That changes the cost of the loads and the cost to operate those centers, but it's more accurate. It cost us $160 to haul a load. If you look at the cost and those centers out beside it, that tells you what it costs to operate each one of those centers. And if you want to break it down by the busiest or the most expensive, Weekly Lane would be number 1. That's 22% of what our deal is. What it costs us to operate comes out of that one center. Second is Sand Hill. That's Laverne. That's 15%. Third is Almaville at 10%. Fourth is Walter Hill at 9%. Fifth is Rock Crusher at 5%. Then you have Craner Road, Leanna, and Rockvale, all in almost a dead tie for 6th, 7th, and 8th, whatever you want to call it there. 9th would be Las Casas. 10th would be Bradaville. 11th would be Rock Springs. Buchanan, Eagleville, and Christiana would be the way they ranked. And if you look on down at the bottom on your Sunday work, 749 loads hauled for the Saturday afternoon and the Sunday, which you have to haul those again through the week, so you actually double those, is $240,000. So if you consider that along with that, that would exceed what Sand Hill does. If you look at the north end of the county with the Weekly Lane that services Smyrna, the Sand Hill that services Laverne, and Almaville actually services both of those plus some of the outlying area. But if you tie those 3 together, those are the largest 3 or the most busy 3 centers, and they represent 47% of what we spend out of those 3 centers. But also, if you look at it another way, the mayor and I spoke about, if it's going to cost you $33 a person to service at the curbside, similar to what the city of Murfreesboro is doing, and you take that $33 a person, there's roughly 35,000 people in Smyrna. That's $1,155,000 to do basically what Smyrna does, what Murfreesboro does in Smyrna. We're doing it for about $311,000. We're doing it cheaper than what they could do it another way. but they could share in the cost.
Same thing applies with mine.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And
And actually, the same thing would apply in Eagle. But Eagle was 400 and something.
And it would cost you double if you had to give Murfreesboro residents the same service.
We actually do give them the same service. They have the same opportunity to come to the convenience center as anybody else. If you look at Rock Springs, which is the 5th busiest, and Walter Hill, the 4th busiest, those are the two that's actually closest to the city of Murfreesboro. And when people from within the city call and they have something that the city convenience center doesn't accept, that's usually the closest one to them. Now, if they live out that side of town, then they may go to Bradeville, or they may go to Leanna. Leanna's so small, we really don't advertise that one much. It's such a small center. But if you think about those small centers, Craner Road, Leanna, and Rockville are the smallest centers that we have, but they all tie for 6th busiest. So that's something that needs to be looked at into the future. If those areas are that busy, we need to look at expanding those. And if you'll remember, was it last month or the month before, Las Casas lease, we're going to run out of that lease within the next 2 years. So we need to look at doing something with that one.
I noticed in the paper a couple of times that the city of Laverne is not offering recycling, but they are trying to help the people find ways, businesses that will recycle for each household. But it's not something that the city's going to pay for, but at least they're taking a step forward and trying to research and help the community recycle. So I'm proud of them for doing that.
If you remember, probably a year ago, I gave you a list of the private haulers in the area, which, of course, that list has changed. But I had a company out of Nashville call 2 weeks ago, I guess it was, and wanted to get put on that list. And if they call City of Smyrna or Laverne, they really don't have an accurate list of who the providers are in that area. If they call my office and you want somebody to pick it up at curb, I'll give you some names off that list based on they say they service your area. And what I'll try to do is give you all of them. That way you can call whomever you want, because I really don't want to get in the situation of recommending anybody. We're just putting information out there for you to have a phone number to call.
Well, I keep getting the question, what do you do with fluorescents?
Fluorescent,
the long tubes.
right. Fluorescents are actually, they have mercury in them, and they are harmful to the environment. But our federal government has deemed that the energy saving is better than the environmental hazards. That's going to bite us in the long run. Right now, if we were to collect the lights, which I'm not opposed to doing that, but the best price I can find is 4.5 cents a foot to dispose of them. So if we're going to collect them, we're going to have to charge to collect them. We can't eat that price.
Well, is there anyone else around that takes them?
The only ones that take them, as far as I know, is like Home Depot will take the compact fluorescents, the little curly ones. And what they'll do is, and they're hoping that you're going to buy your new one there, but they'll take the small one. They won't take the long ones. So we're trying to encourage people to hold on to them to the household hazardous waste. We only have one of those a year, and most people can't hold on to them that long. I talked with the solid waste director for Wilson County 2 weeks ago, I guess, and made the suggestion, and he liked the suggestion, in the racetrack area, which is basically on the county line of the two counties. If the two counties would look at possibility of going together for a household hazardous waste collection site between the two counties. Wilson County didn't have a collection at all last year. We only had one. We used to have two. As the state gets tighter and tighter, that's probably going to go away. But if it were, to where the two counties could merge together and do our resources, we might be able to pull that off. Our paint collection, if we don't collect paint between now and probably October, we're not going to have HHW this year. Now, if we collect that paint, the problem with collecting paint is you're going to have all the businesses that are painters bring that stuff in, and that's not part of it. So we're going to have to charge for that. And my suggestion would be to charge everybody. That way it doesn't matter who you come, where you're coming from, inside the county, outside the county. If everybody's paying, it doesn't matter. And it'd have to be high enough to cover the cost. But that's the decisions that we're going to make down the road. Recycling is something that we've really got to struggle with and work hard on, but it's not cheap. It's going to cost us a lot of money.
You said Wilson County didn't have one. Do you know why?
They collect electronics just as we did. They've done just about everything that we've done, but theirs got canceled. They didn't have one at all. And that's state funded. It didn't cost us anything other than our labor and time in trying to set it up. And we worked with the city of Murfreesboro and did it at their Florence Road facility. You know, they provided the location, and their solid waste director was out there, and then of course Mimi and I were out there, and there were some volunteers that helped and pulled that off. We had some inmates from the correctional center came out there to help.
Somebody got any more questions on the report?
Yeah.
Was there anything significant in putting the city's things in red ink?
Just to no. Just to identify color. And I met with the solid waste director for the city of Murfreesboro this morning, so I gave him a copy of that as well, so he knows.
I just want to know if I should read anything into that.
Well, but the other thing is, and he didn't say anything about it, but what he should do is they pick up everything around the square. They pick up the courthouse, they pick up a lot of stuff that's some dollars spent there that they could. I think if you, yeah, I
That
think
actually
if you,
comes out of their parks and recreation department. Pick up, but anyway,
right.
They still pick it up.
Mac, do you know what year probably they started implementing the city pickup Murfreesboro?
Lord, no.
70s or something?
Long time ago.
Oh, God.
Is there kind of a threshold out there that you could say that when cities get 40, 50,000, 60,000 that they implement a curbside pickup or anything?
Murfreesboro was picking up when they were, population was 20, 25,000. Yeah, and at one time,
Horses and buggies.
I think he can verify that at one time the city of Murfreesboro had a pickup twice a week for each household. That's when the population was around 20, 25,000. Am I right?
I'm not sure about that.
Hey, your age won't take you back that far.
He wasn't here.
That's the trouble. I wasn't here. If I'd been here, I could comment.
We need a motion to approve this.
Well, you've approved his report. This was just information answering
Okay.
questions.
Yeah, I think we're all right.
Yeah, I missed that.
Well, we'd approve that too. Is there any movement or update on the, I know we discussed this several times about, I think Commissioner Sparks was alluding to this about the city of Smyrna and them having, I've forgotten the law that you quoted to where we could declare this some kind of area and there was a letter sent and we've not gotten any positive response. I'm assuming that's still the situation.
That's still the situation. Now there has been some positive response. The Weekly Lane Convenience Center, I don't know if any of you have been up there recently. There's a lot of signage. There's restriping. The town of Smyrna did every bit of that. I met with those folks and we discussed it, and they did it. They paid for it. The next phase that we're working toward is putting a turn lane in front of Weekly Lane Convenience Center. The town of Smyrna is planning on doing all the engineering, the road base, everything else, and my department may wind up paying for the asphalt. But that would help alleviate some of that problem.
Okay.
Now, once we go through all that process, I don't think we should move the center. I know that's going to be the next thing that somebody's going to come up with, is move it next to the new tag office and all that. And I just don't think that's the right thing, but that's my opinion.
But we're not ready to move to any other phase of that, are we, Mayor?
The phase of trying to implement the special taxing district.
Special taxing district. I mean, that's not anything.
I do not think we are at that moment in time yet.
Okay.
I think we need to continue to try to work in a constructive way with the town of Smyrna.
Okay, well,
And Laverne, yes, sir.
Well, and there's some negatives with that as well. I mean, if you go through and you say, we're going to do a special tax district for this area, and you say it's the city limits of Smyrna, if that's what you determine, and you do your base, you figure out what it is, you hire it done, and this is what it costs, and this is what you pay me. And you've set that up, but you've also set that precedent. If there's a big subdivision conglomerate out in Bradable that wants it, you've got to do it. So it's something the county really doesn't want to get into. You understand what I'm saying? If you force it on one,
Be careful what you ask for.
right, because somebody else wants it, then you got to provide it.
I truly understand. Be careful what you ask for.
Right.
You might get it.
Let me ask real quick, when you mentioned Lowe's and Home Depot on these bulbs, on these fluorescent bulbs and stuff, have we ever tried to contact them to see if they'd be receptive on accepting those bulbs, or there's a way that we could look at leveraging them some?
They won't take it long, but I'll put them out there myself.
I mean, have we ever formally asked, though?
No, but I
No,
mean,
they're not going to do that for the county. They can't afford to.
they wouldn't be just collecting them for everybody.
Well, if they quit using mercury in thermometers,
I don't think so.
because that was,
You probably can't buy a thermometer with mercury in it. Everything is digital now.
Well, that's true.
That's back when we had children 40 years ago.
do you remember that?
All right, let's move on it.
I remember playing with it.
Matt, did you say that you're not in favor of moving the Weekly Road Convenience Center?
No, sir. I'm
Period.
not. I think if we're going to have one in Smyrna, it needs to stay right where it is. I understand that a lot of the philosophy that, a larger area and all that kind of stuff. To better serve Smyrna, it's my opinion, the Leanna Convenience Center needs to move. And it needs to move to the intersection of Sulphur Springs and Florence Road, just across the river right there. It's not too far away for the Leanna folks to move, to go to. I mean, that gets it further from my house, but it's still not too far to go. But you also get it close enough to the south side of Smyrna that you'll alleviate some of that traffic. Some of your Smyrna residents would come down there and you build a nice center. What we're going to get into, if we're not extremely cautious in Smyrna, if we move that center, we're going to want to go bigger and better and nicer and everything else, and we're going to get it too big to manage. And once you get it really big, then you're going to start wanting, not only do we take tires, you're going to want to try to take electronics, you're going to try to do paints, you're going to try to do everything right there, and it's not the right thing to do. Ron and I have talked about the possibility of Rockville, doing more things out in Rockville area. I'm opposed to that. I understand what he's asking for, and if from his side, I understand it really well. But when you start dividing and spreading out all your resources, it makes it a whole lot harder to manage. So if you understand what I'm talking about, if we get it too big, then it's going to be a nightmare, and it's almost there now. If you look at the traffic, I talked with TDOT last month and called them and asked if they would do a traffic count. I'd be interested to know how many cars go in and out of those centers. And they said that they could possibly do 1 or 2 centers for 1 or 2 days. But they could not do the 14, and they could not do any of them for a week at a time. I asked him about buying one of those counters, and he recommended we don't do it. He said they're not that expensive. The training on it would take a little time, but his thing was if you have one, everybody in this county is going to want something counted. So you don't want to get into that business. I thought, okay, you got a good point.
We've made a lot of improvements. The mayor and I was talking about Weekly Lane earlier, and Smyrna has stepped up and helped with the signage, the 3 lanes going in, and it's a big improvement over what was there past few years,
But what we have to be cautious of is we've got well over 200,000 residents here in this county. And we try to provide convenience center trash service for them, and we have more than the required number of convenience centers. But we cannot gear up for all 200,000 residents to come on one day. And we've got more than a third and almost half the residents come on the weekend. So we're already geared up to try to take care of as much as we can on the weekend, and I think we'll do a daggone good job of taking care of it. But if we're going to gear up to take care of it all on one day, we might as well just open 1 day a week.
Well, I think what Commissioner Johnson's alluded to, and can't speak for him, but is that you know, we're sitting on a pretty valuable piece of property right there, Weekly Lane. We've got the other property that's ours, it's paid for, that we could utilize. That's bigger. You don't have to worry about the traffic backing up right there. You can come in G Street, I think it is, some of that. It makes sense, but, you know, maybe we could get some more dialogue down the road with Smyrna, see if Smyrna would be willing to help us with some of that infrastructure. And I think Commissioner Johnson's brought that up before. You know, I applaud him for it, because I think we do need to improve recycling, no doubt. I think that it's pretty viable if we could look at doing something over there. I mean, it may not be this year, maybe it's next year or the year after, but that property, what was the appraisal on it, Mayor? The appraisal on Weekly Lane?
$450,000.
And then we got a piece of property paid for, so.
Well, this piece of property is paid for as well.
Yeah, but that's $450,000 that we could utilize to move on to another center and utilize that for maybe some trucks or whatever else and really improve it.
When you move to the piece of property, not counting the piece of property, but you're gonna spend
$100,000.
Oh, more than that, just to rebuild what we already
Well, that's what
have.
I'm saying, maybe we can get in some dialogue with Smyrna about doing some infrastructure.
What are we gonna spend on the turning lane at the existing?
It'd just be the asphalt for that strip that, was it 12-foot wide? How wide are they paved?
Would be the total paving, wouldn't it? Not just asphalt.
Just that, no, just that strip down through there.
But I mean, I'm gonna add something else to the whole thing. You know, when you add turning lanes and all there, yeah, it's gonna help there. But I'm gonna tell you, Weekly Lane is one of the busiest roads is.
Mm-hmm.
To me,
Well, it's busy because of
I
the
understand
convenience
what you,
center.
I
That's why
understand
it's
what you're
busy.
saying. Yeah, but it ain't just it. I mean, it's, when they do a traffic count there, at some point in time, it won't be there, because the traffic's so much, the way Smyrna keeps growing,
But the aesthetic
they'll have to
value
split them
alone-
up or do something.
The aesthetic
I mean-
value alone has a lot of value, just by getting that center off that road. It's an eyesore, and if we put it on that backside, that's where I agree with Commissioner Johnson, that we get that, I would think Smyrna would want to step up and help us with it, just because it's an eyesore, I mean, it's a dump, and
And
we
that
try
may-
to
and
put
that-
trees, and they die right there.
And the
So I
turning
think it
lane
makes
is not
good
gonna
sense.
take care of all the traffic
I
sitting
think
out on Weekly Road. If you go down and come back up coming away from, the lake going towards, the bowling alley, you're gonna sit there. The turning lane has nothing to do with that, because actually the turning lane, people are gonna be turning in front of you. So,
I think he's giving you the best guess at this point in time,
right. I'm
as
looking at the future.
director of the convenience center. But at
If-
some point in time, Smyrna keeps growing like it is, and Smyrna wants to help, then it may be something happen. But I think he's speaking for the county now, don't have the money, just doesn't move it. Smyrna wants to jump in there and want to put money to move it or help or something, then it might be open for discussion.
Well, like Mr. Sparks alluded to the amount that the existing center is worth, you put it on the market, plus just what it's worth to get the traffic off of Weekly Road, like you said. That's worth a lot. I mean, you can't put a dollar amount on it, but it has worth, a great deal of worth. And like Mr. Nolan was saying, you go and put the money into the road, you don't want to move. And that's my point exactly. Why fix the road and everything and still you're landlocked where you are. You don't have room for expansion or very little. We move down to the other spot. We can earmark how much the remainder of that 19 acres that we have. So, I mean, you're really almost unlimited down there. And I understand that you don't want to get too big, but we're still going to need more room. I mean, I don't think, in my mind, there's no doubt that we're going to need more room. And we're locking ourselves in by staying there.
All right, I understand.
Let me go in here just a moment, if you don't mind.
And a year ago, we were all on track to
This
move
is-
it. I don't know what happened.
All of this discussion about the capital expenditure piece of it is the small piece of the puzzle. Yeah, we can move, we can pay for that out of the 450 and have money left over. The issue on the table is back to what Commissioner Williams' initial question was. What kind of response have we got from either Smyrna or Laverne about these ongoing recurring costs? We're spending over $500,000 a year to support Smyrna and Laverne's trash waste pickup. And they're growing. That number is going to keep going. Now, when are they going to help us? That is far in excess per unit, per individual resident that we're doing at all of the other convenience centers. It's not even in, the others paled in comparison. So until we get some affirmative response from them on how they're going to help us, I don't think we ought to promise or put in place systems and resources that will, once we do this, they'd have no incentive to come along and help us. And I don't know what that's going to mean, how we're going to do that, but we need help from Smyrna and Laverne. We need some sort of response, and I don't know who's going to get this. Maybe some of you can get that better than I can get that. We hadn't got it yet. Because this recurring cost is something. We're eating into our reserves every year. He just told you that the monies that we're receiving from the Middle Point landfill is reduced. We have been in years past getting about $1.2 million. It keeps coming on down to less than $900,000. So we're eating into our ending fund balances. We need relief on the operating cost, and the capital cost we can handle. We can put something there that'll take care of all those people forever down there. But do we want to do it and keep expanding our responsibility for the ongoing operating costs? That's the only point I want to make.
Well, in this discussion, we're talking about taking care of the Smyrna's needs, but you're also taking care of the rest of the county too, because those people, they don't have a place to go in Smyrna. We know they're going to go somewhere, and where they're going to go, most likely not in the city limits. They're going to go out in the county and dump it. It's still going to be on our backs, and it's going to cost more to pick it up off the side of the road, I think.
We're doing our part and more than our part.
Yes, I
far
agree.
Beyond.
I agree.
Don't y'all have any sinkholes down in Smyrna?
We don't
No,
allow
they
it to
take
be
them down to
used
the
like
edge of
you
the
do.
lake and dump it.
That's where
They got
they're
a
going.
lake, don't they?
They got a lake.
That's where they're going.
But anyway, I think we've had this discussion, and it's constructive, and I wish I had the wisdom to know how to get them to see that they have some responsibility to step up and help us do something long term here.
To me, instead of addressing the road, we need to address the situation you just spoke of then.
Well, you know that we've had one discussion with the city leaders down there, and we didn't get any feedback.
Right.
So those of you that are down there and have day-to-day contact with them, I encourage you to continue this dialogue. Combat.
After we had that meeting, then what came out of that meeting was basically what you have now, the striping and the sign.
And we came away with something.
And that was a start.
It was sort of a swap.
It was just a little start.
And the guys that I've dealt with on that are extremely nice people.
Yes.
And they're easy to deal with, and if they've got an idea, they'll call and we'll discuss it, and they followed through with everything they said they would do so far.
Well, Mayor, how come I would think it would make sense if you took an area like that, Smyrna, Laverne, and you carved it up into districts, and they coordinated that and had these haulers bid those districts. Wow, what's the problem with something like that?
Well, if you do that number I gave you a minute ago, you're going to go from spending. You've got some private residents that's paying for it out of their pocket now. There is some private.
$18 roughly.
Right.
A month.
But you're going to go from doing what we're doing for 300,000+ to 1.1 million.
I'm saying that you have a coordinated effort, that maybe Smyrna picks up the tab. Smyrna is sitting there.
Well, Smyrna would be
just basically paying basically you're going to get those haulers to bid those districts and get those costs down. That way they're not hodgepodge and jumping over each other, and that's what you got going on now.
That's what we would do if we did the special taxing district. We would put it out for bid, and it would either be divided, it would be one big thing or divided up into different sections, and that's exactly what would happen.
I think this would create.
But I don't think you don't want to go that route. What I'm saying is,
I'd
why don't
rather
we
Smyrna do it
encourage?
themselves.
Why don't we encourage them to do that with a plan that those costs go down instead of $18.50? Now you've got a coordinated effort, and it gets down to $15 or $16.
Well, I mean, I think that's what we should do. Encourage them to do something.
Well, I actually suggested that when we had our meeting at the city of Smyrna.
We know we suggested that. I was there, and I think I was very forceful, but I haven't been successful.
Do you know anybody that's on the Smyrna planning thing that could bring that up?
Yeah,
I don't know any good ones.
I think we just need to. I think we need to just keep the dialogue going.
One problem we have is the public is not educated on the fact of what's going on. Because how much of their tax dollars, Rutherford County, which includes Smyrna taxpayers, and I'm one of them, Mike, you're one of them, but they don't understand how much money that we're actually spending, and it's a political thing. I'm not bashful to. I mean, I'm always going out on a limb. Maybe I shouldn't, but that's me. I just say it like it is. And the bottom line is, it's a political issue in Smyrna and Laverne or any other community that has to step up and start a garbage collection versus what they're doing now. It's a very big political issue, and people are worried about being reelected, and they're not going to go out on it. Most people won't go out on that limb and say, this is what we need to do. But I know as a taxpayer of Smyrna, it's costing me more. It's no doubt in my mind. It's costing me more to pay it out of my pocket to a individual to pick up, private hauler, than it would be if they up my taxes enough to cover it, and the city of Smyrna and Laverne could coordinate, take over the garbage collection, coordinate the people that are already in place. And like Mike said, cut it up in districts. It'd be
How many haulers
the
we
city
have?
furnishing.
How many haulers are there right now in this county?
13
So there's 13
that I'm
groups
aware of. There may be more than that.
that's jumping around.
I'm gonna cut this off on this here.
At this point. Because I think we'll talk about it all night.
What we need to talk about?
Well, wait a minute. Y'all talked. I'm going to just say this. Smyrna has got their own government down there. It's run by Smyrna. And Laverne has. They're not going to let the commission dictate to them what they do.
We're not trying to dictate to them.
And
I'm
we're
saying,
getting down there and
if
talking.
we have nothing right now,
We
we have
have,
nothing.
you from Smyrna,
Let's get some discussion going on. That's
you
all
and
I'm saying.
Mr. Johnson, we went down there and talked to Smyrna, and that's all you could do, is try to persuade them. And you know, they gonna make that decision, their officials is down there. Until the people down there, like Mr. John said, the people down there decide that they want curbside pickup and address the officials down there, I don't think you'll have it. I mean, I think we can talk about it now on.
Let me explain. Okay.
And far as Weekly Lane, we don't know what it'll do. We'll sit here and talk about it now on. The county has got it now, and they're trying to make it the most efficient they can, with turn lanes and all.
And we've done that.
He spoke here saying that he didn't think it ought to be moved, and the mayor had. But nobody knows what the future holds. If it keeps expanding, we have to pick the trash up, we may have to add another place. So that'll be our responsibility. So I think the commission will do what they have to do at that time, whichever way it turns out. I don't think we could solve it, is what I'm saying.
No, but if you look at your costs, and your cost is constantly growing and growing and growing, then we need to do something about it. And I'm not saying Smyrna go implement a trash pickup and raise taxes. I'm saying get these private haulers.
But it's not our job to get the private haulers,
that
Mike.
price down.
It's not our job to get the private haulers.
But we should be coordinating. We should be encouraging the efforts. All I'm saying.
We will have another meeting with the city leaders.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's a step in the right direction.
And that's all we can do.
Let me explain to you why I'm so passionate about this. We've talked about my budget. My budget for the solid waste department is roughly $3 million. I just explained to you where less than $1 million of it comes from Middle Point. A little over $1 million of it comes from sales tax, the county portion. I get 60% of the county portion of the sales tax of anything outside the county. So if you buy something in Smyrna, Laverne, Murfreesboro, or Evil, I get nothing. You look at your top 5 convenience centers and tell me where those people are coming from. Murfreesboro, Smyrna, and Laverne. They're not buying stuff out in the county, they're buying it here. They're buying it in town. So when I get the call out my property tax, not property tax. It's not fairly, you understand what, that's my thing.
But Murfreesboro got their own pickup.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You just broke down the figures, $33 a person,
Mm-hmm.
$5 million budget.
Mm-hmm.
So that's got to be helping somebody.
It does. It does.
It's helping us.
That's right.
Well, let me clarify what I said because it's been repeated, and if everyone in the audience, the TV audience, understood the way Mr. Sparks understood it, it's wrong. I'm not saying, I did not mean to say or be interpreted as I want Smyrna to go and raise taxes to start a trash pickup. What I was inferring to, the amount that they put on in additional taxes is going to be a savings to me because I'm already paying that money out. It would just be a swap of monies, but I would save. There's no doubt in my mind, and I think anyone that's rational, if they think about it, they would agree.
Not
And
only,
if they don't, that's my opinion, it should be theirs. But,
yeah, not only save, but probably have a better service.
right, right.
Right.
I think we've had a long enough discussion on
I
that one
agree.
subject. I think we need to move on to the next.
Okay.
I'm finished, I think.
Highway Department.
All right, let's move on to the highway department.
First three were lengthy. You gonna be lengthy too?
Unfortunately, they had one item, the highway department did this month. The highway commission had, one item, and this was, to approve a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit at Crescent Road. This has been checked out by the sheriff's department. They requested, and the road board approved it, so. Need a motion to approve,
Motion to approve. Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now a question.
All right.
When I turn off 231 on the Barfield Crescent Road, where does the Crescent Road part start according to?
Crescent different than Barfield Crescent.
It is.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Crescent is on down where Crescent is on that there. There's a
Yeah.
road, just Crescent Road.
You know where Crescent is?
Yeah, it's where it tees into Midland Road and all
Midland
that.
and Armstrong Back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's back this side of there and goes to the left, I believe.
It'd be a sign that
That's
says
what I wanted
Crescent
to
Road.
know.
Okay.
So if my old friends from around where I used to live start getting on me about this,
Yeah, I believe that's
wanna
where
be
Crescent
able
Road
to
is. Bill Frank may
accurately
have a better
discuss it.
Yeah.
thing of it, but it's,
We voted.
I don't think we did.
All in favor? I move with adjourn.